Chill with chill, baby. We are live and in the flesh, y'all. Hey, y'all honored to be here, just like I'm honored to be here. It's always good to be in the presence of a legend, right, Chill?
What up, man? Hey, Ron is the man. So I'm here filling in. This is what we do around here. So let's talk some basketball. I appreciate it, brother. Let's do it.
You know, the backup point guard has to start the first game of the playoffs. It feels like this. It feels. Hey, I know I'm not gonna start all playoffs, but I know this first game we gotta get this. We gotta get this win. I gotta perform.
I seen you as a backup lead guard though, so your skills is solid. So I ain't really worried. I'm not worried at all.
It's like Tyus Jones last year backing up Ja. It's like it's man all-star. It ain't nothing I can do about this one.
He'll be all right.
Yeah. But man, let's waste no time. Chat. I'm gonna drop the link. We gonna get it in. We gonna make it happen today. But right from the top, Chill, you was mentioning that you wanted to talk about teams being good on paper, but not necessarily good on the court.
Yeah.
Do you have some teams in mind?
Yeah. Well, Minnesota, for example, and I want to preference the idea that talent doesn't always win, right? Because you are the most talented does not mean that you're going to win. And if you don't win, that doesn't mean that you are over, like you screwed it up. Because a lot goes into building a championship team or building a good team. If it looks good on paper, it doesn't necessarily translate to being a good team. So if you think about the Minnesota Timberwolves, them coming up this season, for example. So we got a healthy Cat. I don't know if I can name 5 big men in the game better than Cat. I'm not really sure if I can. I'll go Embiid. I'll go Joker. I'll go Anthony Davis. We can have a conversation about Bam. I think he's better than DeAndre Ayton. If you want to put Giannis in the big man category. But other than that, I think he's right around that. Sabonis, we can have a conversation. I don't think he's better than Cat. Yeah. I think he's in the conversation, but I don't think he's better than Cat. No, I don't. But with that being said, him being a top 5, arguably a top 5 big man, Rudy Gobert has been the defensive player of the year I think 3 times in the last 5 years. Yeah. With that being said, Cat missed the All-NBA team because the dude who was on the All-NBA team is on his team now. I think that the NBA is being put on notice. What I mean when I say that, Ron, is I think in the next year, 2 years tops, Anthony Edwards will be the best 2 guard in the game. And I think that we're going to have a serious conversation about him being a top 5 player in the game. Not top 10, top 5 player in the game. Ooh, I think Jaden McDaniels, I think he is going to be, I'm a Herb Jones stan. So I think there's going to be a serious conversation about him being the best wing defender in the game. There's people who already think he's the best wing defender in the game. I think it's a cross between Drew Holiday and Herb Jones, but that's just me.
And Drew's going this way. Yes. Those 2 are going this way. So
that's the point.
Drew's going to start losing a little bit of recognition in those categories, and those 2 about to start getting a whole lot of love and praise.
Right. And with that being said, right? With that being said, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, Cat, Rudy Gobert. So you got your rim protector. On paper, this looks like a team at minimum that should be a top 5 seed in the West. And at minimum, they should win a playoff series. But when they're the 7-8 seed, there's factors that go into it. Cat missed 54 games last year. Jaden McDaniels broke his hand. And I understand all of that stuff. However, this season, there has to be there's a different level of continuity. Now, you guys have been together for a year. Now we got this next year coming up. This should be different. Another team, the Clippers, with Kawhi Leonard, with Paul George.
This is a prime example.
Right. With Kawhi Leonard, with Paul George, with Russell Westbrook. When you throw and crews together with a mixture of talent, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. There has to be a lot of stuff that goes right with that. Now, with that being said, these guys do need to be better. So what I don't want to confuse, Ron, I don't want to confuse a team being talented with being just because you're talented does not mean that you're going to win. I want to make sure that I'm clear on that, because a lot of teams, people think that because what it looks like on paper, it's going to work. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work because you're talented.
So a couple other teams, because I'm looking through the teams right now, and I want you to also point out some other teams that you think are talented, but it'll just never work. Do you think the Sixers fall in that category?
I do think the Philadelphia 76ers fall in that category, and I think they fall in that category for one reason and one reason only. Joel Embiid. I know who James Harden is. I know what James Harden has done over the course of his career. I know what he does in the playoffs. I know he's a playoff dropper, and I know he underperforms in the playoffs. Joel Embiid, on the other hand, the reason why they aren't as good as they could be, number one, Joel Embiid doesn't take care of his body like he should. Number two, Joel Embiid doesn't do the other things in order for them to be successful in the playoffs. Everybody looks at the fact that his point production goes down. His point production goes down because he doesn't do the other things. He doesn't rebound like he should. Not only does he not rebound like he should, he doesn't rim protect like he should. He doesn't rim run like he should. Get easier buckets like that. He's stopping at the three-point line in transition. He's stopping in the mid-range in transition. When you opening up, when you rim running like Rudy Gobert does, like Cat does, like Bam does, and you getting easier buckets, that opens up the offense so much more. Plus the dirty work that if he did that, how much better they would be. I think he's the catalyst to why they aren't as good as they should be. And in terms of talent, the talent is there. He was the league MVP this season. And last 2 years, he was the runner-up for league MVP. So it's obvious that the talent is there. The question is what other stuff? Why aren't we as successful? I think that's the main reason why you're not doing the other stuff in order for us to win.
And I mean, would you equate that with a lot of these other talented teams? Because you could kind of say with those other teams, you could say the same thing about that. So you mentioned the Wolves. Obviously, Cat's a guy like that too, where he's supremely talented, but it's like when it comes to the dirty work, he doesn't necessarily, take care of all of that stuff or cross out other boxes, like maybe leadership and just other intangibles. And then the Clippers, I mean, I guess their main thing is just health, but that's a box that doesn't get checked for them either.
Right. So the reason why Minnesota got Rudy Gobert, because they needed that toughness in the paint. They needed that rim protector. They needed that rim presence because they didn't have that with Cat. They didn't have that glass, even though Cat rebounds, but they needed that rim protector. They needed that rim presence. I mean, Bruce Brown, this is the defending NBA champion Denver Nuggets. He said they gave him their toughest test. And the reason why they gave him their toughest test is because I think the last 4 games, I think Rudy was 17 and 12 in 2 blocks. So when you got a guy like that in the paint, don't get me wrong. Is he Olajuwon? No. Is he Anthony Davis? No. But he does give them that extra thing that they didn't have, right? So when guys like Cat aren't performing up to that level, when you bring in another guy who is, that's the difference in us winning and losing. That's the difference right there in us winning and losing. And when you talk about talented teams like the Phoenix Suns, right? You talk about talented teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves. You talk about talented teams like the Knicks. When you talk about talented teams that you throw together, it's different when they've been thrown together as opposed to them being homegrown. As talented as the Cleveland Cavs are, they've been homegrown. Darius Garland, right? Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. Those guys have been homegrown. The Boston Celtics with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. All of those guys have been homegrown. So when you look at the mixture of talent that these teams have on them, the separator is, were they homegrown? Number 2, when you throw them together, who was coaching them? And a lot of that stuff matters. Just because you have the most talent does not mean that you're going to win.
Yeah. Would you equate the Pelicans as a talented team that probably won't win?
I would equate the Pelicans as a really talented team. And I think that Zion is the linchpin. And I've seen what he's done in the offseason. The difference, Mac, the difference, Roy, the difference, Ron, is him in this particular situation. He has to take care of his body consistently. It can't just be this season. He has to do it consistently in order for them, because he's the linchpin in order for them winning and losing. So you got guys like Brandon Ingram. You got a guy like Brandon Ingram. You have Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, right? Herb Jones, the Troy Murphy, the guys that they have on that crew, they got a good mixture of talent. And I really dig, I dig their coach, right? I dig their coach because the reason why I dig their coach is because 1, he's young. 2, he comes from playoff experience. So I dig their coach. I think the difference with them is same thing with the Clippers. It's health, but the plus side is that they're homegrown also. Yeah. Like Brandon Ingram been there for a while, right? Herb Jones has been there for a while. They just got CJ McCullough, but Murphy's been there for a while. So they're actually growing up together. So as talented as they are, the fact that they're growing up together, that makes this thing that makes this thing more feasible to work as opposed to throwing a crew together and just putting a talented team together. But I do think with the mixture of talent that New Orleans has, they should be better than what they are.
No doubt, no doubt. Chat, I'm dropping a link right now. I want you guys to come chime in and let me know how you guys feel about teams that are talented but won't succeed. Come up here, let us know. Let me know if you agree with Chill on some of these teams
Yeah,
he's mentioned, or let me know if it's some teams that you think that he hasn't mentioned, or if you just if
who
it's
did I
certain
leave
teams
out?
where you're like, nah, it's no way.
Mm-hmm.
This team should win sometime soon. But in
Mm-hmm.
the meantime, I do got a couple super chats. I'm gonna go ahead and get into them right now.
Mm-hmm.
Jamal said, my only issue with the T Wolves is mental mistakes.
Well, the mental mistakes come from your leader. Like I talked about with the Memphis Grizzlies. Who are the Memphis Grizzlies? They're a bunch of tough talking, empty promising, yapping dudes. Well, who was their leader? That was Ja. That's what he was doing, right? So now you move closer to the Timberwolves. Who was their leader? It was Cat, who did a lot of yapping, and then when it mattered the most, he didn't show up. But now it looks like they transitioning to a different leader. And Anthony Edwards, who looks a lot tougher, who looks a lot stronger, who looks like he's going to deliver and take that next step to make the Minnesota Timberwolves definitely more viable than what they were this season. But it's growing pains too, guys. You got to remember, when you got a young crew and you got a young star, you're going to go through those growing pains with the young star. But I think this season with Anthony Edwards, I think that step gets taken.
Yo, my man.
What up?
What's up? What's up, Joe? Listen, man. I was speaking to SB in the chat, man. I don't know if you guys saw it. We've talking before, man.
Yo, you cutting out.
Did we lose him? I think we lost him. See if we could get him back. Mm-hmm. See if we could get him back.
Oh.
Yeah. But that's what it is, Ron. That's absolutely what it is.
Yo, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
you hot now. Now you hot.
All right, good. Like, let me just double check something. My internet's crashing up, but yeah. All right. What I was saying was that I think Casey Johnson was talking about one of the greatest what-if teams of all time, and that was the Heat, Miami Heat Big Three, potentially actually coming to Chicago in 2010. If they were to trade Luol Deng to the Clippers, that would give them the cap space to bring all of them to Chicago. So it would be Rose, Bosh, Wade, LeBron, Joakim Noah as a starting five. And I ain't gonna lie, I think they win more there than they do the Heat.
Carlos Boozer was on that team too, by the way.
Yeah, as well. That's a crazy team, man.
Carlos Boozer was on that team too. So I'm not sure Derrick Rose turns into Derrick Rose though. Barring the injuries, true. I don't think that he becomes the league MVP. He may be an all-league guard at some point because again, it's 2010. Yeah. So Wade probably had 3-4 more years at that level before he started slowing down. Derrick Rose was still young, so Derrick Rose could have very well turned into that. Very well could have turned into an all-league guard, but an MVP caliber player with James and with Chris Bosh. I think you're asking a lot. I do. Good to talk to you, though, brother. Appreciate you.
My man, is there anything you want to comment on in terms of teams that are talented but underachieve?
I think we lost him, Ron.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you
just say that again? Can you just say that again?
Is there anything that you want to comment on in terms of teams that are talented but underachieve?
Yeah, I think the problem is that when you look at teams, sometimes it also comes down to the coaching as well. It's such an underrated aspect because I feel like I like this team, but I feel like we have to put the Boston Celtics in that category as well. Just from what they've almost achieved, but never gone across the final finish line. I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that, they lost Ime, they had a rookie coach, and sometimes all of those rotation schemes, planning. Because let's be real, he got outcoached by Eric Spo in that ECF, man. Like, he got absolutely outcoached, man. And I feel like that sometimes comes into a factor as well.
Did he though?
I feel like even when they were coming back, when you saw that Derek White game winner, that was basically just because of luck. I can't lie. So
what did Eric Spoelstra do to outcoach? What did Eric Spoelstra do to outcoach him?
I think he found out weaknesses in that Boston lineup. He found out ways to neutralize Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to a certain extent. and he just got his schemes
How,
to
though?
get a.
The question is how, though? Because like you,
Well, we know about
Jalen
Jaylen Brown, man. We know about Jaylen Brown. He just can't go left. But I think
Well,
he just put
actually,
them in.
He can. He's just not a multi-dribble left-handed guy. He can go left, right?
I also think he put Tatum and he made them move more into the mid-range. I don't know why Tatum just does not like taking these mid-range shots at all.
Right.
He almost made them like attack very aggressively and closeouts and stuff, and basically said that we're going to live with them taking mid-range shots, and kind of just put them in this weird position where. And I also think that the way they set up their schemes offensively in the playoffs was really nice. I really like what they were doing with Gabe. There was a reason why Gabe Vincent and all these guys were getting hot. It was because of the way they were doing their movement shooting scheme with Bam, like almost making this playmaking role. It's actually quite interesting in the playoffs. They weren't doing that in the regular season.
So you talk about being out coached. Is it fair to say that Spoelstra, he also had a one-up on him? Because I feel like the coach of the Celtics, I feel like he adjusted to what Eric Spoelstra was doing. For example, when they had that, they ran a 2-3 high zone. In that 2-3 high zone, what they did was they pushed the Boston Celtics further away from the basket. Now, what a 2-3 high zone is it's essentially a man-to-man, it's a matchup zone where Jason Tatum is on the right wing and he's standing in front of Gabe Vincent. Gabe Vincent is covering him until he gets over to Max Strus, and then Max Strus is dealing with him. Well, what the coach of the Boston Celtics did was he spread that zone out. And in the process of him spreading that zone out, he took Jason Tatum off the ball and put him in the middle of the zone and making him more of a primary playmaker. That worked. That's called an adjustment right there. And that actually helped them become better in getting more buckets, not just getting more buckets, not just getting more buckets, getting more fouls and things like that. So once he did that, I'm not saying that Eric Spoelstra wasn't a great coach, but I think you overrating the fact that he wiped the floor with him because I don't think he did that. I don't think he did that.
But the problem again I have with that entire game plan is I just don't like having Jason Tatum as the primary playmaker. And that's the problem with the Celtics as well. Sometimes these teams they just.
Well, he wasn't the primary playmaker because Marcus Smart was there also. And what he also did was when he had the ball, he made Marcus Smart a shooter. And Marcus Smart was a solid shooter. Marcus Smart didn't have to be a knockdown shooter, but just a guy who could keep the defense honest.
He's a respectable shooter.
And in the process of him doing that, once he became a respectable shooter, when he switched and Jason Tatum was in the middle of the zone and Marcus Smart had the ball in his hands, well, now you got to honor that. And you got to honor Derek White. And with honoring these guys, that was they weren't able to shrink that zone like they wanted to. Now, I think injuries played a key role into that because I honestly think that if Jason Tatum doesn't get hurt, I think they beat Miami in that game 7. I think that they had all the momentum. I think they were ready. I think that they beat them in game 7. I think that took all the air out of them. But that's another story for another day.
That's another trend,
But I don't think that he got out coached as much as people would like to think. I don't think it was that bad. I don't.
That's I think this
all
is
right, my man. We got a lot of people in the back room, so we got to get on to the next person.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you for tapping in. Next chill for sure. Come up or next open gym or whatever. Keep getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man.
All right, man. We'll catch you soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, on to the next. Yo, 7K Hoops.
What's up, brother?
Yo, what's good with y'all?
What up?
Yeah, I got 2 questions for you, Chill. One, I'll give my opinion first, but one, what do you think about the Warriors this upcoming season? Like, seeing how tough the West is going to be, I don't know if the Warriors going to make it to the playoffs this year.
I think
I want to go that far because I look at the team, I see Steph Curry, a whole bunch of role players, no other all-star caliber players. Mm-hmm. I hate the move for Chris Paul. It makes no sense to me. I think for that team, Jordan Poole is way better for them. Mm-hmm. So I'm just looking at the Warriors. Like I think every single game, besides against the Spurs in the West, you got to get up for that.
Mm-hmm. So you don't think that they make the playoffs with Curry, with Klay Thompson, with Draymond Green, with Kuminga taking a step this season, right? With Kuminga taking a step this season, with with Chris Paul, who I think is going to be good for the with Andrew Wiggins, with Chris Paul, who I think is going to be great for their second unit. You don't have them making the playoffs. I think that that's nuts to think that. Because number one, I have a difficult time with the logic that Steph Curry being still in his prime, that team won't make the playoffs. Andrew Wiggins is they're gonna have him for a full season. Draymond Green is gonna be ready for a full season. Also, Klay Thompson, who has been going the other way, but still good enough. I think Chris Paul adds a different element on their second unit. He gives them another playmaker that they didn't have. Don't get me wrong, I don't love the move, but he gives them a playmaker that they didn't have. I think he gives them another offensive player that they didn't have. And I think you could hide him on defense with guys like Draymond Green. I think you could hide him on defense with guys like Andrew Wiggins. And he could be one of those passing lane defenders. If you think about the Western Conference, if you can give me 8-9 teams you think are better than the Golden State Warriors, I will go with that. But the Western
Conference, you want me to name them?
I'm all ears to hear 9 teams better than the Golden State Warriors.
Nuggets, Grizzlies, Kings, Suns, fully healthy Clippers, Lakers. I think the T-Wolves will make a jump. That's 7 teams. Fully healthy Pelicans if they have Zion, and then Mavericks. That'll be 9 teams right there.
That's 9 teams right there. So
that's a tough. That's like at least all of those teams are at least as good as the Warriors. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be a tough West.
Right.
So I think I'm looking at the Warriors like part of the reason why they were so great was because of their system they played.
Right.
The NBA has caught up to them. Like everybody knows the system. Everybody has shooters out there.
Right.
Klay Thompson, he's taking a step back year in, year out. I think Draymond is the same way.
Right.
There's a little thing I believe, like once a player gets that contract, they play hard for that contract year. The year after, it might be a little dip. I don't know if you're going to see the same Draymond. So I'm looking at it. It's like they're going to be battling. When I say they're not going to make the playoffs, I mean, I think they'll be a play-in team. But I don't know if they'll be a top 7 or 6 seed. That's what I'm about.
So leaving out the fact that the Memphis Grizzlies are going to lose Ja for 25 games, even though they win without him, they don't have their backup lead guard, who I think is the best backup lead guard in the game. And I don't think Derrick Rose is as good as him. I think they got Derrick Rose strictly for vet leadership. That's number one. I think they better than Memphis. That's number one. They own Dallas, and I don't think Dallas did anything to get better after they already beat them 2 years ago in the Western Conference Championship. They added Kyrie and they crippled their perimeter defense. I absolutely believe that they're better than Dallas. How you feel about Golden State? That's how I feel about Dallas. I think Dallas at best is a play-in team. They have a 5-man at this time, Lively, who I think is a project. I don't think he's that good offensively yet, and that's something that they need. They need a guy that they could go to on the block for buckets. They don't have that. Right. Add that to the fact that the Golden State Warriors defensively, they're so much better than Dallas. I think that they're just as good offensively as the Memphis Grizzlies and the Clippers. You gave me 2 teams, the Clippers and the New Orleans Pelicans, barring any health injuries. Well, the problem is they've always had health injuries. So there is no barring any health injuries. Can I
interrupt real quick? My bad. Let me interrupt real quick. Steph Curry gets hurt every year too.
They still make
the last 5-6 years, he gets hurt every year too. So, I mean, if we're gonna bring in injuries in there, if you take Steph Curry off this team, in my opinion, I think since KD left, if you take Steph Curry off the team, they're a lottery team every year. Well, I think he's that impactful for them.
7K. So, are you projecting that Steph gets hurt? Because
no.
Let's think about it. When's the last time that the Warriors missed the playoffs? So now we are talking an anomaly right now as well.
Right.
No, because he bought the Pelicans and the Clippers with injuries. I was saying barring injuries. So I'm saying Steph Curry gets hurt. He misses about 20 to 30 games over the last 5-6 years.
But the difference, though, is that it's not as detrimental to the Warriors as it is to the New Orleans Pelicans, as it is to the Clippers. He'll miss these games, but they still in the playoff race. They still winning the NBA championship with him missing it. When Zion misses games, he misses 2/3 of the season. That sinks them. The Clippers, when Kawhi Leonard is not playing, when Paul George misses the season, that sinks these. When he's out for the amount of time that he's out, that sinks them. They end up. If they make the playoffs, they're out in round 1. The Golden State Warriors, that's not going on with them.
So I think last year,
that's 2 teams right there that you mentioned. 2 teams that you mentioned with barring injuries, the Pelicans and the Clippers, which they've had consistent injuries, and the other 2 teams you said was Dallas and Memphis. So that's 4 teams right there that I think the Warriors are ahead of. So at minimum, they're a top 16 at minimum.
Okay, I disagree. One, the Memphis thing, I mean, they did have Derrick Rose and then brought in Marcus Smart. So defensively, they'll be great. And even without Ja, they have been great year in, year out without Ja Morant. So I kind of just viewed Memphis a little bit over the Warriors. in terms of Dallas, like I can hear you with that, but I'm putting them in kind of the same category as Dallas, right? And I didn't even mention OKC. That's another team you got to watch for.
I think they're gonna be better. I do.
Yeah, they might be. I'm not. That's why I didn't name them at first. But it's like that's a team. I think they're on that same level. I just was saying without injuries because you can't project anything, right? So you can't really.
I'll be
predict
shocked
injuries.
Barring injuries, I'll be shocked if the Warriors, if they don't have significant injuries and they don't make the playoffs, it's time to blow this unit up. What we still doing it?
I mean, it is time to blow it up. It is time to blow it up, in my opinion.
If they don't make the playoffs, barring any significant injuries, there's no reason to keep this unit together. What we still doing it? Why are we here?
Do you think they're a championship winning team?
I think the days of them winning championships are over. I do.
So it's time to blow them up, right? If you got Steph Curry, who you think is a top 5 player, right?
I do think Steph Curry is a top 5 player in the game. Yes, I do.
So, and they're not a championship winning team. That means they got to make adjustments.
Well, right, what we're not going to do, we're not going to just completely blow the unit up if we still making the playoffs and we making runs in the playoffs. I mean, they were a semifinals team. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they're the middle of the pack and they're barely making the playoffs. I mean, they still made the playoffs, and in the process of making the playoffs, they did win a playoff series. Now, if we get to the space where they get knocked out in the first round or they get knocked out in the play-in tournament where there weren't any significant injuries, all right, now we got to look. Now we have to look to what we're going to do different because, Klay Thompson, his contract coming up, right? You got Kuminga's Rook deal is almost expiring. So now you got to start thinking about, and he's another guy who I think that this season, I think we're in year 3, coming into year 3, I think that he has to take a jump. If he takes a jump, I think that they're much better. So if he doesn't, he's a guy that you have to look at. Maybe we might have to move him if this doesn't start to progress. If he doesn't start to progress, maybe you might have to move him.
Let me ask you this question. Fully healthy, Kings, Warriors, repeat series this year. Who do you have winning?
The Warriors again.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, 7K. I got to get to the next person. But, hey, you came up here. You held it down. You had some good questions. Definitely tap in next time. I got to hear some more.
For sure. I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all take it easy.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
I think that's the Warriors not making the playoffs, Ron. That's that. I'd be shocked if the Warriors didn't make the playoffs, B. I would that would, barring any injuries, like they would really have to suck. And I don't want to what I don't want to do, Ron, is I don't want to overrate the Western Conference. Just so you guys know, I mean, Kyrie Irving came over to the West, right? Kevin Durant came over to the West. Sure, I get that. Kevin Durant is older. He's going to be 35 on opening night. With that being said, 3 of the 4 best records in the NBA was in the Eastern Conference last year. So let's not act like the Eastern Conference is just whack, because it's not.
Nah, for sure. And I mean, he did bring up 2 good points. So one good point that he brought up, first and foremost, was two compelling points that kind of garnered my attention as well. That without Steph, it does kind of get a little shaky.
Oh, it gets ugly.
But at the same time, it's like Steph is usually injured every season, so it's like, all right, that's not an anomaly. But
I think he missed 20 games last year. I think he missed 20 games. Yeah, I think he missed 20 games last year, something like that.
Yeah, and that's the other thing though too. Jordan Poole is not really there to hold it down if Steph, isn't gone. Which I personally don't think they should have let him go. But that's a conversation for another day. Right. But also too, he did kind of bring to my point that the West is every night is going to be a dogfight.
Right.
Because we didn't bring up the Trailblazers, and I'm still a firm believer that if Dame's on that team, they're still. I'm not saying that the Blazers are the best team in the league or anything like that, but you still got Nurkic, who if he's healthy, he's a good player. You still got Jeremy Grant, who obviously we know what he brings to the table. Then you still got Dame, and then all their young guns too. The Blazers aren't just you just not walking into the Portland and just expecting to win every night. And then obviously every other team that he just mentioned. So it is going to be tough for the Warriors, but kind of how you said, it's just That's why I don't want to move off of Dame. For that reason right there, what you just said, Ron. That's exactly why I don't want to move off of Dame. For that reason right there, what you just said. We're gonna at least have a chance. At least have a chance with him in the lineup. So FIFA boy with the super chat said, Ron, why you kick Fluent off the panel? We need him back. That's not what happened. Relax. That's not what happened, brother. No. Yeah, I cut up my David Stern and got him up out the league. No, that's not what he did, B. He did not do that. That's crazy. Yo, I see y'all in the waiting room. Random guy. I'm gonna get to you in a second. We're just gonna reel off a couple of these super chats. Smoy6 said, I think BI is the player that will elevate the Pelicans to where they want to go. Underrated.
I don't think Brandon Ingram is underrated. I don't, and it's comments like that make him overrated. I mean, like, what has Brandon Ingram done as opposed to that one playoff run that they had against Phoenix? Like, he hasn't done it. He hasn't done much. Now, I think from a talent standpoint, he's fantastic, Ron. He's absolutely fantastic. But when you say stuff like underrated, is Brandon Ingram a top 20 player in the game? No. Is he a top 25 player in the game? I think you can make that argument. Definitely a top 30 player in the game. I do believe that.
Okay. Fanatic said, I'm not a fossil, but I just seen Winning Time Season 2, Episode 2. Do you have an equivalent trade scenario using today's NBA players comparable to Nixon and Jay Thompson in the the super chat? But do you have a comparable NBA players?
I haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't seen the series, but that's how the Los Angeles Lakers got Byron Scott, because the Clippers had the number 4 pick, and they ended up picking Byron Scott. And when it was in San Diego, and the Lakers called up the Clippers and asked, "Yo, how about you hand over the number 4 pick and we'll give you Norm Nixon?" The Clippers was like, "Yeah, sure, we'll do that." Now, if that's today's game, if you got one of the best guards in the league at that point, who's one of the better guards in the game? Like maybe Darius Garland. Let's say Darius Garland, the Lakers got the number 4 pick, and the Cavs call up the Lakers and go, "Yo, how about you hand over the number 4 pick that you got and we'll give you Darius Garland." That's kind of what it was.
Okay. Let's go ahead and keep it moving. Random guy. What's up? How you
What's good? All right. I hopped in right when you was talking about all the things that especially like a young up and coming team needs to get to win, because I think we talked about this before on Float and Chill, where we talked about like remember the 2010 Steelers. They had everything. They had the coach, They had the quarterback, they had everything. So many things just have to go right. And it always feels like with these young up and coming teams, there's like a point where it's like, okay, you can either go one way or another way. And then for instance, let's use the Steelers again. It was like I always felt like they were like one thing away, but always something behind the scenes would mess with them. Whether it was Antonio Brown starting to wild out, or it was let's see, it's like Antonio Brown was coming up. They had, what was his name, Mike Wallace, and then they cut him. And I'm like, maybe you could keep him one more year, and then y'all could see, because you got to get past the Patriots, but they just couldn't have. Right. So I wonder if this Zion thing, especially for the Pelicans, is that thing. If he can figure it out, I think I think they could realistically do it in maybe a few years. I'm not going to say, but also the fact that they just don't have that experience to get there. They haven't even gone through they don't have the scars that most teams that you go, is because Zion is just, he's not there, so they don't have those scars that they get it. Like Jordan had to go through the Pistons, had to get those scars from the Pistons to win. Right. Magic had to I guess Magic is different because he won early, but then he still had to go through
Isaiah had to go through Boston to get there. Right. I understand that part. Right.
They just haven't got those scars yet. So I'm wondering, and eventually by the time maybe they have those scars, will they be left? Because as crazy as it sounds, the Grizzlies already have starting to get those scars. They had those scars last year. When the last year when the Warriors beat them, obviously this year with the Ja stuff, but then they still found a way to make the playoffs, and they got those scars again with the Lakers. It's like I think every up and coming team, no matter what sport it is, no matter what you're doing, you need those scars to get there. But the Pelicans don't even have a chance to get those scars because the guy, even as great as BI is, there's a reason why the Pelicans still messing with Zion.
So how much longer do you keep this thing together? Because again, we're going, just so you know, we're going into year 5 now with Zion. This is year 5 that we're going into with him.
I aspire to your method. Like by year 5, year 6, we kind of know who you are. And what do we know about Zion by year 5?
What I think we'll know is I think he's 26 and 6 or 26 and 7. But at this point, what we do know about him is that he's unstable.
He's unstable. He can't stay on the court. And now he's becoming, obviously not yet, but at least in the community, he's becoming an
off-court liability. We had that lady turn Twitter upside down for 30 days. With whatever she could say about Zion could have eaten a bagel, she'd say something about it.
But the difference with that though is nobody would care about that if they were winning.
If he was playing, so all
if
that.
If he was playing, prime example would be Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace had all the antics in the world when he was playing in the NBA. A lot of that stuff went by the wayside because Rasheed Wallace was an all-star. Rasheed Wallace was one of the better bigs in the game. So when you're winning, there's a lot of unless you're out here killing somebody or smacking people up and stuff like that, teams will look the other way on a lot of nonsense. And the reason why they look away on a lot of nonsense, because again, this is entertainment. And with it being entertainment, we need you on the floor. And if he's performing, if Zion is performing, that stuff you talked about with Twitter, nobody cares about that. In fact, if he was performing, that would have been a blip on the screen. That would have went away.
Absolutely.
Nobody would have cared about that. It would have went in one ear and out the other.
To answer your question, Chill, for me, I would rather just get something back from him. And maybe me as a GM, if I traded Zion and he blew up somewhere else, I would live with it. But I know I'm getting a king's ransom back from somebody. Somebody's gonna give me either it's the picks or the players that luckily if he was just Zion by himself, I'd understand even be more hesitant. But you got BI, you can build something around BI.
Right.
So I'm like, I'd rather. Yo, Zion, we tried. And I'm saying, like, God, I hope if I send you to the Knicks or whatever, and I hope you ball out there, and then you do prove me right in a way that maybe you stay healthy there and you ball out. But I would rather be like, okay, we trade him away. The fans can get mad, but then when they realize, oh my God, we got all these picks, and if let's just say if Zion does continue his ways, we're getting good picks from the Knicks. That's what we're getting good picks from the Knicks. So I would rather trade him.
For this season right here, which is year 5, if I don't get a minimum of 60 games, I'm out. And they don't make the playoffs, from him specifically, if I don't get a minimum of 60 games and they're not in playoff contention where they actually make the playoffs, I'm out on him. I'm out.
That's what I'm saying. Like maybe for me, I guess now, all right, you've already signed the max, you've already done that. So I guess I'll agree with you that 60 games, I'm out. I would actually like, bro, I need to at least get you 65 so you can at least be in contention for some kind of accolade because he's good enough. But 60 games, I'm out. I'll get a king's ransom back. And for everybody that says that, BI,
I really want 70 to be honest with you, but I'll take it. I really want 70. I really want 70, but I'll take it.
You're not getting 70 from him.
I know I'm not.
Yo, chill a random guy. All right, so hypothetically, let's say Zion gives you 41 games. He plays half the games, right?
I'm out, Ron.
But look. Y'all make the playoffs, and he plays just as good as he's been playing, if not better. And he plays the playoff series. Matter of fact, y'all make it to the second round. And
I'm out.
He's playing.
Ron. So you're basically telling me now that I have to wait every other game, or basically I have to waste half a season now. Now you just continuing the cycle because what's stopping me from playing 30 games next year?
This is what I'm saying. He performs at the level he's supposed to play at when he plays, and y'all make it to the second round, which I think we could all say for the Pelicans is either achieving at exactly what we think they could do. Some would say even overachieving. So are y'all saying all achievements, accolades, stats, and playoff production off the table? He has to play a certain amount of games, and you guys are
You have to show you're consistent, Ron. You have to show you're consistent. And what is consistent about him is that he misses games.
So what if Zion's second average is 38 and 5?
Oh, well, we trading high. We trading high.
Sell right now.
Okay. I'm calling Orlando. I said, let me get at least half your players. Let me get.
Here's the thing, Ron.
I'm calling
this is what we have to understand. If he plays 41 games, he's got significant injuries. And if he's got significant injuries, more than likely, he's not going to be in the shape that he needs to be in order for them to play, in order for them to make a deep run in the playoffs. And if he plays in the playoffs and they win with him only playing 41 games and him balling out, it's a mirage. And because it's a mirage, let's put this dude on display right now. Sell.
Let's send him to somebody desperate. And we can get all the picks from them, and we sell it
right now.
Because Ron. So you're telling me right now, okay, let's just say you own a team. Unquestionably, when he's on the court, you're the owner, unquestionably. When Zion's on the court, you're making money, you're selling tickets, and your team's good. But half the time he's not there, Ron. Half the time he's not there.
Which is what I need as a business in order to make money. There's no way that if I got this guy for 41 games every other night that we playing, he's not playing. That's so bad for business. That's terrible for business. Terrible.
Yeah, all of a sudden,
if you got to play every other game, just make sure it's a home game.
Oh, wait, we're promoting. What's the guard that steals everybody's? What's his name? It's escaping me right now. What's the young guard's name that he always hides and steals balls from people? Pause.
Jose Alvarado.
Alvarez.
Alvarado. All of a sudden you're like, oh my God, he's not playing today. Alvarado night. Get the bobbleheads up. Because you know he's not playing tonight.
Not doing that, yo. We not.
Come on, Ron. Just think about it.
I get what you guys are saying, but then basically, if that's the case, it's almost like you might as well be ready to pull the trigger on him at the trade deadline. You might as well be like, yo, Zion.
I'm not saying I'm not looking, but I'm Daryl Morey with this. I'm not trading him unless I get the right deal. He's locked up for years, and if I get that first round, let's just say he plays the T-Wolves and he goes off, he's doing 38-7, like you said. Oh, you bet, buddy. I'm putting feelers out.
Well, that
would be a great time to sell. Like if he went off in the playoffs, if I got 41 games out of him and he went off in the playoffs, that'd be a great time to sell.
The minute that final buzzer sounds on the finals.
Yes.
Hey, Boston, y'all want to talk? Orlando, you want to
talk?
Yeah,
a great time to sell.
Look, we got a fresh Zion right here. He just gave
y'all
38-7. Maybe he went 6 with the Lakers, and he was like a hard 6. And I'm like, hey, yo, check it out. He fresh right here. Hey, the warranty's clean. Look at that. He just proved he could play in the playoffs. And then you roll from there. You selling high. You gotta sell high.
It sounds already premeditated. Like if you guys are the GM, you guys are ready to get this guy out of here.
He played 41 games, Ron. I already know that. He played 41 games last season.
So this is what I'm saying, though. This is what I'm saying. So right now, you're already rating like, come on, Zion, please just come and perform. Please just at least give us a good 23, 6-6, or 23-6-6, so somebody can at least see that you could play again.
Okay, Ron.
And then we fishing for packages.
Well, here's the thing, though, Ron. Well, here's the thing, Ron. What have we seen up until this point? It's not like, your eye starts cutting another way when you with your girl and, she's been good to you all these years. Well, she hasn't been. All these years that have gone by, it's been up and down with her, yo. One minute she's dope, the next minute you can't find her for 2 or 3 days, and then the next minute she's cooking, and then the next minute she's cooking for a week. So the next thing you know, of course, your eye is cutting that other right.
Let's use that analogy. Let's use Chill's analogy. All right. Let's just say somebody is trying to, hey, yo, who that? And you're like, hey, man, let me tell you something. What is great is great. It's great. And you just hiding all the, hey, I don't need to tell you about what happened last Wednesday when she broke. He's not telling you that. But hey, go ahead, talk to her, bro. Talk to her.
She with it.
After that, we chilling. We out somewhere else with a new girl. She may not be as good looking, but hey, we chilling over here. We know Wednesdays you come home after a hard day from work. Maybe you got some dinner on the table. Y'all watching something on Netflix. Every Wednesday is Gucci.
Not gonna be
you don't gotta maybe sometimes walk in with a helmet on and avoid some stuff. You saw something on Twitter.
Yeah, no doubt.
No nonsense.
The thing about the Pelicans too is they can afford. Obviously, like let's say Zion does go crazy the first half of the season and they trade him a trade deadline. They don't have to get something astronomical back. They're good enough to the point if they get a couple solid pieces, obviously you want the best you can get, but if they could get a couple good players, they'll be all right.
In a perfect world, they'd get another star, right? But I think if you get enough nice pieces, like let's just say like the Josh Harts of the world or somebody, you get pieces like that, and then some team you could trade those Josh Harts. I'm just keep using him because I really enjoy his game, and then you could sell him to get a disgruntled star, because there's always going to be one, whether it's like Dame or somebody like that. There's always going to be one coming. That's just kind of until maybe the CBA really comes into effect and we see the stars like who demand in trades 5 years into their contract. Until that stops, there's always going to be another star coming. And and that person, if you have an abundance of those players, and all of a sudden now you got, let's just say, who's it? Don't tell Ox. Let's just say De'Aaron Fox says like, you know what, I'm done. Now all of a sudden you got the players to convince Sacramento. Y'all can still make the playoffs with, let's just say 3 or 4 Josh Harts. Y'all can still make the playoffs, and then you get De'Aaron Fox. Now you got De'Aaron Fox and BI running, and then you got that.
Yeah,
that's just me. You can be average right now, and then you can be great when you seize the opportunity. And David Griffin is a good enough GM that he's shown that he can be great enough to make that trade when it's ready. That's where I'm looking at. Because for him to even get BI, so somebody to placeholder when Zion's not there, and still have a guy who looks like he's ready to take that next step, I think that works.
For sure, no doubt. Do you want to comment on anything about teams overachieving?
I think sometimes I always use
or
football.
underachieving. I want to say underachieving.
I think a lot of let's go back to football again. The dream team, the Philadelphia Eagles dream team. A lot of people just like, I think with fans especially, it's like you just bring the talent together and it will work. And a lot of people just think just because you have that star power, you still need the glue guys, you still need the coach, and sometimes a lot of times you gotta find a way to knock down all those egos as well. I go back and watch that Philadelphia Eagles dream team. I don't understand how they did work with all the talent that they had. All of a sudden, Nnamdi Asomugha, who was the season before, people were saying this is the best corner in the league, and he fell off
projected.
the cliff.
I think they was projecting them 14 wins that year. There were some teams that was like, yo, there was some people that was like they was 14-2, 15-1. They thought they were going to walk the Super Bowl.
Yeah, maybe they'll meet up with the Patriots or the Colts in the Super Bowl, and it's going to be great. And then a lot of times it's how you start too. And it's like all of a sudden you lose a couple games that you weren't supposed to. Maybe you think you're maybe you think you're better than you are, and then you just catch that one team that's like, look, I know we're not as good as you, but we play harder than y'all. Or maybe we're a better team. A lot of times when you look at the Patriots during their dynasty, they were like that. They may not have been the most talented team, but they were definitely the better team, if you get what I mean. Or they would walk in and they're beating teams like that all the time. I don't know enough basketball. I don't know enough basketball to use an analogy like that. But that's why I'm using football to hopefully that makes more sense. How come the
Clippers? The Clippers with Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin.
That's one. Realistically, when you look at their roster, the fact that they didn't even sniff the NBA Finals is a travesty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Losing the teams they had no business losing to. Yeah. And then maybe it's Doc Rivers with him not making the right moves, or Chris Paul getting injured, or maybe just not having the right guys to make the plays at the right time. Yep. So many things just come together that I think a lot more times it's a lot easier to see how a team underachieves than overachieves.
Yep.
For sure, random guy. Appreciate you for coming through. We're gonna go ahead and get on to the next person.
Thank you for having me.
Talking to you, brother. Talking to you, brother. Absolutely. Yeah, Ron. If this season on Zion, if I don't get at minimum 60 games, I'm out.
So who do you have the lesser expectations for? Zion playing over 60 games, or the Clippers putting together a successful, I guess, season and playoff run?
The Clippers, because Leonard's going to break down again. He just is. The Clippers.
It's crazy. I wonder what they're going to do with that new arena. But moving along, Angie Carr said, so Derrick Rose is not only the last Eastern guard to receive an all NBA first team selection, but he also was the most recent guard in the conference to win the MVP award. How crazy is that?
But you think about it, yep. And there was a stretch where of the 15 guys that made all NBA, like 1 out of every 5 guys was from the East. That's it. And everybody else was from the West. And those guys was like James, Carmelo Anthony, guys like that from the Eastern Conference that was making the all NBA team. And it wasn't, and everybody else was just from the Western Conference. Like Darren Williams would make the all NBA team once or so, but Kyrie Irving would make it once or twice. But for the most part, it was Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, Tony Parker, Steph Curry, Luka. It was loaded in the West. The Western Conference was loaded.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's definitely been a while since 2011 since his MVP year. That's the last time an Eastern Conference guard has gotten.
Is that 12 years ago?
Yeah, that's crazy. Definitely on Monday on the panel, I want to ask everybody who do they think will be the next person to go ahead and take those reins. So we'll get into that. Appreciate you, Angie Carr, for sending that through. We're gonna definitely keep that topic going on the panel for sure. Smoy 6 or F Smoy 6 became a member. Appreciate you.
Welcome to the show, brother.
All right. So speaking of Eastern Conference guards, I guess this is a good time to transition into probably the biggest offseason just nonsense, whatever you want to call it. Just news with James Harden in Philadelphia. It's a complete shit show over there right now. And we don't necessarily know the ins and outs, but we are being reported about certain things. And the NBA just said that they're about to, or it just came out that the NBA is going to start looking into the situation as, I guess you could say, tampering, if you will, with James Harden saying he's not going to play a game and basically saying that he won't show up for camp and he's going to play hardball with the 76ers. How you feel about this, Joe?
Here's the thing, Ron. I think what nobody is asking is, why is James Harden saying that Daryl Morey lied? What did he lie about? You know, you can't just say, I can't just say Ron lied to me. Well, there has to be some basis behind that. And if I'm saying that, I got to come with something else besides Ron lied to me. Now, James Harden and Daryl Morey have a relationship. They got a personal relationship. Daryl Morey was the one who took a chance on James Harden. James Harden was a rotation player in Oklahoma City. He was on the uprise. In the process of that, he got moved because it was a money issue. And Daryl Morey pegged him as their franchise player. And it worked. And in the process of that, Harden was delivering on his game, which would explain why he got the extensions that he got, right? So in the process of him doing that, there became a trust between those two. A lot of people will say, yo, you don't mix business with, you don't get business. It's never personal. It's always business. Well, here's the difference. There are plenty of guys who have personal relationships with people in higher ranks. I'm 100% confident Kobe Bryant had a personal relationship with Jerry West. He used to eat dinner over Dr. Buss's house. Now, don't get me wrong. There was a business aspect to this 100%. But when you're working with somebody that long, there's a trust that's developed. So if Daryl Morey tells James Harden, yo, I'm gonna get you paid. You opt out of this deal, you take the 2 for 1, and after 1, you opt out, and I'm gonna get you paid. He's trusting Daryl Morey because in the past, this has worked. And Harden has also delivered in the past, right? He's averaged 35 a game, 36 and 10, and he's been one of the better guards in the league. Only except he didn't really hold up his end of the bargain. So he underperformed in the playoffs in 22. He underperformed in the playoffs in 23. And his production, not just in the playoffs, even in the regular season, as far as a point total, has gone down. So when Daryl Morey goes to the Philadelphia Brass and says, they'll be looking for a 4-year, $160 million extension, Philadelphia is looking at him going, we're not doing that. No, we're absolutely not doing that. Now, if I promised you that and I wasn't able to deliver on that, well, yeah, sure, that might be the situation. I might have overstated what I could deliver. Now, with that being said, James now wants out. Now, with James wanting out, and I think Ticket brought up a really good point where now this becomes you opt into the deal and we trade you. Well, that hasn't happened yet. So because that hasn't happened, now we get to this point where, yo, I think y'all dudes are playing me. You dudes are now playing me. I think I put my trust in the wrong place, and you dudes lied to me. You in particular, after all of this time you and me been together, this is how you do me. And he lashed out. And Ron, to be honest with you, that's what it sounded like. That what James Harden said, that sounded personal. That didn't sound like somebody that it was just business. That sounded like somebody who had worked with somebody for a long time who did them dirty. And it sounded personal. And this is where we are with them. I do think that this situation can be fixed, though, Ron. And the reason why I feel like that is because, number one, James Harden is in a contract year. And we saw James Harden 3 years ago put the fat suit on and go to Brooklyn. He's in a contract year this year. He's older. In the process of him being older, this is probably his last deal. For him to come to camp out of shape, for him to come to camp disgruntled, that's going to look so bad on his trade value, as opposed to let's let some of this time pass. Let's let some of this time pass. Let's let some of the heat die down. You and me get in a room and decide how we're going to get in front of the cameras and smooth this thing over. Once we do that, then we can get you to where you need to go. And get his trade value back up where it needs to be, and then he can move on. Because there's no way he could go into camp disgruntled and completely flipping over tables. Because I think that destroys his. I think that destroys his trade value, wrecks it.
Yeah, so I want to rewind because you kind of you unturned or you turned over some stones that I didn't even think about. So you said that James Harden, obviously he opted out of his contract, right?
Yes.
And so he was expecting a deal.
That's how he got the 2-year deal. That's how he got the 2-year deal. Because he left that money. He left that money on the table, and he signed a 2-year deal for less money now, Ron.
Yeah.
And the reason why he signed for less money was because Daryl Morey told him, "Yo, ball out this year. We're gonna get an extension." And then now, because he didn't perform the way they expected him to perform, Daryl Morey goes to the Philadelphia Brass and asks for an extension. Nah, we're not doing that. Well, James, you opt into this deal, this current deal, which is for less money, by the way, again, than what I originally had when I took this contract, which is for less money. I'm going to opt into this deal, and you guys are going to trade me, which hasn't happened yet.
Okay. I'm gonna get some people up here right now. I want to hear everybody's thoughts on this whole James Harden thing. Let me go ahead and start bringing people up right now. Yo, Mr. Mavs, what's going on, bro?
What up?
What's up, fellas? How you guys doing, man?
What up?
Cool. How you living?
Not too bad, man.
What's up, my man? You got any thoughts on this whole James Harden thing?
Well, yeah. Before I get into that, man, I gotta give Chilltown his kudos, man, because when I first saw you, Chill, man, you know I was hard on you, bro. But man, dude, like you know who, bro? Like you know basketball, bro, and so I gotta give you that, man. The way you articulated, man, it's impressive, and
thank you.
I gotta, just say that, bro. But listen, I'm a Rockets fan, Chill.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You talk about the Rockets all the time.
So for us Rockets fans, this is nothing new. You know, you made a great point. Him and Daryl have a relationship that's like no other when it comes to player GM. You mentioned Kobe and Jerry. You know, I think that's the only one. Maybe AI and then the owner in Philly was close like that. But you know, there's something personal there. I don't think Daryl lied to him. I think Daryl had good intentions, right? And I just think that Daryl's not playing with a blank check. Right.
Those are there's a difference. I'm glad you brought that up. Keep going, but understand people. There's a difference between lying to somebody and having good intentions. There's a difference. Keep going.
Yeah. So I do think Daryl had good intentions. He's not playing with a blank check where it's on him. He makes a decision. He went to the brass, like you said, those in charge, and they said, absolutely not. We can't win with this guy, right? I mean, listen, when it counts the most, James has a track record of coming up short, right? I do think he played his role during the season, 22, 10, and 6, or 5, whatever it was. I'm okay with that, right, during the season. But in the postseason, Chill, is where you make your name. And so I do think him and Daryl had a behind-the-scene, wink, wink, shake, right?
A gentleman's handshake.
Yeah,
that's what they had. A gentleman's handshake.
And again, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to question Daryl's intention because Daryl has never had bad intentions for James in the past, right? There's a trust level there. Doesn't mean that everything I promised, right, is going to come to fruition, especially when Daryl's not the owner. And so I think Harden is a little pissed off. He's a little, he's in his feelings. And
well, but before you go any further, Mr. Mann, where do you think that comes from? I think where that comes from is he delivered in the past for James. So in the past, if I tell you that I'm going to do something and I deliver, that's where the trust comes in, right?
Correct.
So now we get to a different destination and you tell me, and I tell you, oh, yo, Mr. Mass, listen, this is what we're going to do. And I got you. I've delivered in the past for you. So automatically you're going to believe that, well, you're going to do it again. Right. And when I don't do it, well, damn, what's going on? Why can't you do this? You've done it in the past.
And this has to be said too, Joe. What's the number one rule in the NBA that we tell our stars not to do, superstars? You never take less. You never take less. And so when James had a chance to sign the extension in Brooklyn, 3 years, 160, or even the extension in Philly, right? He trusted Daryl, but James and his mother, his because his mom is like his agent, I heard, they know better. You don't take less. You don't put your faith in this man. Despite what he's done in the past, I get it, but this isn't Houston. This is Philadelphia, where they're building around Joel, not you. Therefore, you're not the priority. And so things can change, right? And so again, I think people need to understand that Daryl has good intentions. And I think there's a sense of spoiledness, entitlement from James. He's been pampered. Listen, man, I'm a diehard Rockets fan. Chill. Houston gave him everything he wanted and more, right? With no repercussions. I mean, there's stories behind the scenes that I know about that I'm sure you wouldn't be shocked by. But finally,
that's why Russ left. That's why Russ left.
Yeah. So finally, Dwight, Chris, the list goes on and on. Finally, there's a team in Philadelphia with Daryl and the front Elton Brand and the brass are saying this has to stop. And listen, to be fair, or to be honest, Chill, I'm happy that the Sixers are taking back their franchise, right? They're not letting that player dictate. Listen, they just went through this with Ben Simmons. Now, last point. Kevin Durant in Brooklyn, similar situation. Trade me. I'm not playing for the GM. And like you said, the season is a few months away, so I do think it can be fixed, right? We thought Kevin was out of there last year, right before the season started, and what happened? He played, but I think they need to get into a room together, everybody, smooth it out, right? Play the first 25, 30 games, and then try to come up with a destination where he can go. You know what I'm saying?
Just not right now though, because again, the wound is fresh, right? What he just said, we can't. And I said that I gave Ron this example. If you get into it with your lady and y'all end up arguing, you go, yo, I'm gonna walk out the door and I'm gonna go get my head together because I'm gonna end up saying something to you that I'm gonna regret, and she gonna end up saying something to you. You come back in an hour, 2 hours. Now we can probably talk. As opposed to we keep going back and forth, and this thing just gets uglier and uglier. So I think this is a situation where let this thing die down. We could get in a room in the future, and I think we can figure this out.
Chill. If it's okay with Ron, I'm a Rockets fan, so I wanted to just ask a quick question about Jalen, Jabari, and Sengun. If it's okay with Ron, that's
you good, man.
I like what they're doing in Houston. I do.
Yeah, I do too. But here's the question, Chill. I'm a Rockets fan, so I like to play the game inside out, not outside out. Right? Jabari and Sengun to me are two talented bigs, skillful. We can run your offense through, create offense, moving on the weak side, do your thing, right?
Right.
But the Rockets are in a tough spot because they like Jalen, right? A high volume, low efficient player who's just one track mind offensively sounded, right? But that's it. So I guess the question is this: if you're Ime Udoka, how are you going to run this offense, right? I'm a big component in going down to the big man, right? With that type of skill set. And I'm not saying Jalen can't dance and do his thing, but there's a time and place for that, right? And then is Jalen going to accept that role if they do that? And so, I do think the Rockets are a team that is up and coming. I think they can get that 7, 8, 9, 10 seed playing tournament somewhere in there. But then we talk about, chemistry, shot selection. You bring in Fred, you got Dylan. And so I think Ime is going to play a major role when it comes to Jalen, his shot selection. Because with me, we're going to the big guys, right? Yeah. Listen, we've seen Sengun over in FIBA playing some good defense. He lost some weight, right? Dominant down low, skilled big man, right? We've seen Jabari in Summer League, you know what I'm saying? He's got that perimeter-oriented game. His next step is defensively being sounded and technically sound, right? I compare Jabari to, Evan Mobley, maybe a 2 or 3 notches below a Kevin Garnett. Not that level, just, a tall, lengthy perimeter guy, whatever. But, man, can we look through the big guys, man? Or are you sold on going through Jalen?
Well, the one thing that I will say about the Houston Rockets, there's going to be a level of discipline that wasn't there last season. So the turnovers that you had in the fourth quarter, the bad play that you had down the stretch, because if you remember, you are a Rockets fan, you know this, a lot of games that you guys played, you were in it in the fourth quarter. The problem was turning the basketball over, making dumb plays, because that level of discipline wasn't there. Enter Ime Udoka. So the wild shots that Jalen Green was taking, the out of control play of Kevin Porter Jr., that stuff is going to stop because you got a different level of coaching in there. You got a different level of discipline. So I think that you could run the offense more through Sengun when the game slows down and you get into the meat and potatoes of the game, which is going to make him a better passer, which is going to make him a better playmaker, right? And you're going to get good. I think you're going to get good offense out of Jalen Green, because I do think watching him that he could be one of the better one-on-one players, but I think reeling him in is what Ime Udoka is going to do, and turning him loose at the right time, as opposed to they just gave him the ball and turned him loose the entire time. That's why Fred VanVleet is there. That's why the vets are there. So I think that I like what they're doing in Houston. I do. I really like what they're doing in Houston.
So last question, and then I'll go around. Obviously, Fred's going to come and he's going to start. He's going to be the primary ball handler, which means that James is going to be off the basketball, right? And so his next progression to me, Chill, is two things: better playmaking, and then being a decor or a factor off the basketball. If that's setting screen, backdoor lobs, being not quite on the Steph Curry's level, impact off the ball, but James' impact can't always be given to me 5 spread out and let me do my thing.
Right.
But listen, I'm so great that I make other guys better with my movement, right, and drawing attention. And so hopefully we get that. And then do you see if Dylan Brooks isn't playing the level of defense that you think he should play, and we know his shooting is suspect, you think he may goes to Kevin and starts him over Dylan at some point during the season?
I don't think that. I think that they brought Dylan in specifically for that. I think they brought him in to be that kind of defender. But so that with that being said, look for Jalen Green to be a better defender this season. I mean, I know you talk a lot about Jalen on the basketball, and I see him improving in terms of that offense, but look for Jalen Green to be a better defender. Look for Ime to challenge him defensively, for him to be one of the better defensive guards in the game, because that's going to be the difference in you guys winning games, because there was no discipline. And when you discipline, that means you discipline on both sides of the basketball. And I think Jalen Green is going to be that, because Ime Udoka is going to challenge him to be a better defender, just like he challenged Jalen Green, just like he challenged Jaylen Brown to be a better defender, just like he challenged Jason Tatum to be a better defender. I think he's going to do the same thing with Jalen Green. Now, as far as the offense and as far as them moving the basketball, I think that they're going to look more. I think they're going to look more at speeding the game up, but in a more of a, not chaos, but in more of a controlled space. So like when you get Jalen Green out in transition, it's not going to be jacking up threes, and no, it's going to be a lot of getting to the rim, a lot of in the mid-range, and more of in a controlled space, as opposed, that's where the discipline comes in, as opposed to when he was running with Silas and it was just wide open. Ime Udoka is the difference in what you guys are going to be doing this year, because he brings you guys a different level.
And we do know that, my bad, Ron. And we do know that matchups matter, right? So some games may dictate Sengun and Jabari being the first, second option, right? Some games it may be Jalen. Last point. Then I want to see Ime Udoka. You said challenge Jalen, bro. Call timeout. If he misses a defense assignment and being lazy on defense, hey man, come sit down.
That's what's going to happen. I'm telling you, that's going to happen.
In the moment, bench him, and then young fella, hey man, go back in the game. So
that's what's going to happen.
So, I mean, thanks, Ron.
Hey, Mass, me and Mars and Ox, we're all high on Jalen Green, and I've said myself that I think he's going to take that next step this next year, just in terms of him just getting stronger, him obviously getting better, him growing into his grown man body, and him just the NBA speed just slowing down a little more for him. But one thing that I haven't factored in, and you kind of just alluded to it this whole time, and Chill as well, is what Ime Udoka is going to do for him in terms of discipline on the offensive end and on the defensive end.
Yes.
I think like he's almost like, obviously it's I can't use a Jordan example because just Mars got in your head with that, Ron. Don't let him. No, I'm not about to do that because Mars is, man. I just can't go there. But like for instance, like it's certain players that we can look to that when they got a coach, their game transformed a lot. I was gonna say Jordan with Phil Jackson, but I don't want to do that just because
I can get with that example. No, that's fair. That's a fair example, though. Yeah, that's a fair example. Sure, absolutely, I can get with that example.
I think that Ime can have that type of effect on Jalen Green.
Yeah, that's fair.
But Ime has a presence and the cachet when he walked the locker room in day one. Chill and Ron, he demands that, right? We know size never demanded that type of play from him, and so I think that there's a level of respect that Jalen and the rest of the crew have for Ime, right? And so again, I think Ime's presence and his listen, I think Ime is probably one of the best coaches when we say leader of men. Listen, there's a coach, Chill, it's Chill, right? And then there's I can lead a group of men. I can lead different personalities. So I think that's what Ime's specialty is. But thanks, Ron and Chill. Man. I appreciate you guys.
All right, brother.
We're gonna catch you next time.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Chill, you think it's any way that that season from the Boston Celtics was a fluke at Ime?
No, I don't.
So you think I'm not going to say obviously leads the Rockets to the championships, but you think that he's able to, carry that over to the Rockets for sure?
Well, if you remember, he was on the bench with Greg Popovich when they were winning NBA championships. So he comes from that pedigree. So he know they didn't hire him in Boston just off the strength that he just came from Greg Popovich. He knows what he's doing. Yeah. And they were able to turn that thing around in the middle of the season. So had he not been ousted last season, I thought that they were right back in the middle of it. Yeah. I did. I thought that they were right back in the middle of it. Ime Udoka can coach 100%. He can, and not necessarily. I'm not going to put the emphasis, Ron, on coaching more than he gets the respect from the guys that he needs to get the respect from.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm not. I think Ime is a great coach. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate, but also too, just to continue to play devil's advocate. Keep in mind, the Celtics are probably the easiest team in the NBA to coach. And once again, I'm not saying Joe Mazzulla is a bad coach, but you see what he was able, the success he was able to have with the Celtics. I think that's one of the easier rosters to jump on and be able to steer them to a successful season.
I never really bought into that logic, Ron. And the reason why I never really bought into that logic is because my grandmother told me a long time ago, anybody could train a secretary. You can screw them up too, though. So as good as this roster is, he could have screwed that thing right up. He could have wrecked it, but he didn't. So there's some things that you have to do in order for a good roster. Because I've seen coaches who've had good rosters and wrecked them. So you have to be in tune. And the fact that he was on that bench last year, the year before when they were in the NBA Finals, that helped. 100% that helped. Now, if he walked in the door, I will say this, Ron, if he walked in the door and they didn't know him, I think that thing could have definitely went sour. The fact that they knew him, it did help.
Yeah, no doubt. I got a super chat from Terry with two dads. He said, "Chill. What do you think that Jazz? What do you think that the Jazz should have done differently? That 92 roster was nuts, by the way.
That 92 roster that the Jazz did. I thought it was."
Then he said, "Definitely to win a ring." For clarification,
definitely to win a ring. Somebody said to me, "Break Malone and Stockton up," and they probably could have won somewhere else. But I actually liked what they did. But sometimes you just ain't good enough. And they weren't better than the Rockets. I think that they could have gotten a better big man. So Felton Spencer and Greg Ostertag, those guys weren't good enough in the post. And I think that they could have gotten a better big man. Not necessarily at the Olajuwon level, but somebody that they could at least go to for buckets. Somebody that they can get solid buckets from, as opposed to somebody that was almost useless offensively, right? As good as Malone, as good as Stockton was, Hornacek, one of the better shooters in the game, at that time, Brian Russell being one of the better wing defenders and one of the better dirty work guys. I thought that they were right there. I think the difference is at the 5 spot. I think that's where they were deficient at. If they could have got Mark Eaton and brought him into the 90s, I think we got something completely different with the Jazz.
Yeah, but because he asked, what move do you think they could have did to specifically win a championship? Do you think it was just upgrade the 5 spot?
Upgrade the 5 spot more than anything.
And even with that being said, do you think that's enough? Because we know what beast they're dealing with. Like they not just, it wasn't just that they got there and just dropped the ball.
Right. So let me rephrase that, Ron. Upgrade the 5 spot and maybe have given them a better chance, because that don't necessarily mean that they're going to beat the Bulls. That don't mean that they're necessarily going to beat the Rockets, but at least give them a better chance.
All right, y'all. The link has been dropped, so I'm gonna re-drop it here for anybody who wants to come in. Go ahead and check the chat. It's right there. Y'all see it there. But I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna bring up a few guys right now. We're going to go ahead and have an open discussion. I've seen y'all been waiting this whole time, so I'm going to get y'all up here. What's good, Context? What's good, SB? What's good, Sturdy? For the last 30 minutes,
salute.
Get it in.
What's happening?
What up?
I kick it off. So, OG, when you say a team is underachieving, and I think we all are falling under that context of the microwave generation. Like, if you tell me a team like maybe Boston underachieved, I'm cool with that. But if we talking about like OKC Thunder, the Sacramento Kings, any young team like that, just to name a few.
Right.
I don't think they underachieve. I think we need to give them time to develop, and we don't do that anymore in this generation, because after like two runs together, it's time to blow the team up. It don't work. It don't work out. So I think we fall under that logic of this microwave era where we want everything now. And I think we need to let teams actually develop.
My logic has always been just because you are the most talented does not necessarily mean you're going to win. Just because you look the best on paper, that doesn't mean that you're going to win. Chamberlain said himself that 72 team that won the NBA championship, won 33 straight games. He said he's been on teams that he looked at his unit going, yo, we would smoke these dudes from a talent standpoint, only except you wouldn't. That's why the crew that you was on was as good as it was, because there was that cohesion there. You guys were able to get together. You guys were able, because at that point, Chamberlain had been on the unit for 3 years, right? That Bulls team, you being from Chicago, that Bulls team that they built that with Jordan, Scotty, Horace, B.J. Armstrong, and Bill Cartwright, and Stacey King, and the guys that I'm talking about. When you build in units like that, there's a difference between having the most talented and the most cohesive. So I don't necessarily think that when you get a crew together and you just throw a crew together, that it's going to work just because you're the most talented. You need a lot of other things to happen in order for you guys to win.
Yeah. Imagine. I know context and study want to go, but imagine if Jordan Bulls was in this era and they had lost to their Pistons teams back to back. They probably would have said broke up him and Scotty before they actually went over the hump and went 3-peat.
Why you stopping there? The Lakers ain't together. The Lakers, the Magic, Jabbar, James Harden, they ain't together. Bird, McHale, and Pat, they ain't together neither. There's plenty of these. The Detroit Pistons, when them losing to the Boston stuff, they ain't together. All of these teams that we think are all-time great teams, those teams, that the Houston Rockets with Vernon Maxwell, they ain't together. No, because the masses, the masses would have demanded you be better now, and they would have ultimately got those units blown up.
Yep.
That's an part of that development too is also investing in your coaching, having a stable foundation in terms of philosophy. Like me and Chill always talk about this, man. Like since 2019, and I think it's ridiculous the fact that 26 coaches in the NBA has been fired. That means only 4 coaches kept their job. Right. And there's been 5 different coaches to win a chip, and 2 of them got fired.
Right.
So where's the building of the winning culture? Where's the investment in that? And like we talk about all the great teams that went through the growing pains. Guess what they had? They had Phil Jackson. They had Chuck Daly. They had those guys through those growing pains to build that winning culture. So I think the fact that like we only associate winning culture with 3 franchises. That's the Warriors, the Spurs, and the Heat. Everybody else been a revolving door of different opinions, of different ideas. And I think that's what's missing now. And you see in my opinion, you see the young teams with the most highest ceilings, like the Cavs, like the Grizzlies, like the Pelicans and OKC. To me, that's the only thing they're missing. Is that establishment of a winning culture, and most importantly, growing pains, getting better individually and as a team, development that continuity. And I think that's the most underrated aspect of winning is building that culture.
So I think honestly the perfect case study that we can pay attention to moving forward would be the Rockets and Detroit Pistons, right? They just got their coach and they signed them to extensive deals, right? So to see, I think we can use those 2 teams as the perfect case study to see how much is a team willing to invest into creating a culture, right? And then growing that culture, and then removing or adding on to the pieces to maximize that team, right? Because my opinion, like Chill, for you, and I'm pretty sure everybody's in tune, but like to me, that roster, as far as talent, the talent is there, and they have multiple positions filled already. So it's really a lot of fine tuning and then development. And you know what I mean? And nurturing. So how much are the teams willing to invest into their coach, right? How much stock do they invest into the scouting, the development? Because that plays a part too. And then from there, I think that allows the players to buy in, establishing the roles first, which, like you guys said, Udoka is going to be able to do that in Houston. And in Detroit, it's Monty going to be able to establish a pecking order that's going to allow these guys to thrive. Because I want to say this one point too. If you guys paid attention, and it's just in particular with Jalen Green, Paul George asked him and said, who's the one player that you want to like tap into and have a conversation with? And he said Kyrie.
So a lot of people would go with, oh, he wants to get a bag. He already has a bag. Why does he want a bigger bag? No. He specifically said he wants to learn footwork, pacing, shot selection, when to attack. And chill, you said that goes hand in hand. Who's in the team USA team select with Jalen Green right now is Udoka. So he's already putting the seeds of food for thought in his brain, along with playing with all this talent around him. That's going to change his mentality. I don't need the pill like that. I'm going to be able to, and now Udoka can just advance it more from the Team USA situation. You could just build on more, and now you have someone that's already a super or a star player, quote unquote, that's potentially a star player, is going to buy in, and it will be easier to fill out the roles.
Now, remember that we have to remember that the money aspect of this is so astronomical today that it's really difficult to build units like you did. So, for example, the Golden State Warriors. Golden State Warriors got lucky. The reason why the Golden State Warriors got lucky was because, number one, there was a stigma about Steph Curry that he might not be able to hold up. So they got him on the cheap. So they end up getting him. Right. There you go. They end up getting him on the cheap. They get Draymond Green as a second-round pick. He pans out because David Lee got hurt. They get him on the cheap. Same logic with Klay Thompson. They get him on the cheap. So when you would, and that was 7, 8, 9 years ago. Now here we are where we got guys signing extensions, by the way. We got guys signing extensions, a rotation guy for $130 million. So the patience, number one, isn't there. Not only is the patience not there, me as a player, I got to perform because I'm trying to get paid. So the idea of holding these crews and getting these crews together and keeping them together for a long time, what I think that's somewhat of an anomaly, but I think that you can keep it together now, considering what the CBA is, and not only what the CBA is, how much more money is going to be available to these guys on their unit.
Well, before if anything, let me just ask real quick. Be my fault. I didn't want to cut you off, brother.
No,
but,
you do.
And it could be a question like afterwards, like, and we don't have to even get into it. But I'm really curious, how do you guys feel with ESPN now jumping into the fray in sports betting? Now, I'm not saying that's going to have any influence, but I find it very interesting that a media company that is also, remember, they're gearing up for their next TV deal to also go into the sports betting industry and double down on both sides. How does that play into player narrative, right? News narrative, creating all of these whatever the timelines create for teams, right? Because a team GM can go and send out feelers and things, and these guys like Woj and stuff like that, they can release this information, thus affecting the players. I mean, the fans is gonna have a very. So I'm just very curious, like moving forward, how you guys feel about it. We don't have to go into deep, but like, what's the thought process behind that?
This right here, simple as that. Money,
right?
And sports betting has been getting more glorified and popularized now. Especially, it's easy to do it with the app. I could just open up my with FanDuel. I'm watching the game. Oh man, he look like he might have a good game and put these bets in right now. And that's just that simple. So it's really just money, and it is popularized. It's so popularized that it's different groups of people who used to do like put their bets in groups, so they have like Discord. Like it's a thing now because a lot of people made a lot of money. I'd seen a dude in one football season made a meal every other week. He was making $100K,
but to have
all his bets.
But my thing is you have like the thing about it with ESPN is that they are also creating promo, right, for players in certain aspects, or they can destroy a player, right? Look at what multiple examples. Zion, I mean, obviously with their actions on top of it, but the ESPNs, the FS1s, they can pile on. So to have them on one side being a partaking in a betting platform, and then you can control how the perception is, you're gonna move some lines. Those over and unders are gonna look insane. You understand? So I find it. I'm not saying it's cause a conflict of interest, but I'm keeping an eye on ESPN. I'm keeping an eye.
OG, remember when we was arguing real quick? I know we got Ron. You got to shut it down in a second. Remember how we was arguing about the Scottie Pippen DRose thing? All I want to put in your mindset is this, right? Yes, Scotty was great. He played with Jordan, but he's known as the glorified sidekick from your era. That's how y'all label Scotty. I think our era appreciates Scotty more than y'all did during that time. That's truthful because y'all just said he wasn't when out Jordan. Y'all treat him like a Robin. Now you go through a team who has a drought, a long drought. Man, you the Bulls from 2000 to Derrick Rose got that we was god awful. That's a fact.
To let the people know, the last time the Bulls won the championship, Blade came out in theaters. Go ahead.
Right. That's true. So then you get a guy who you just said the last guard in the Eastern Conference make the All NBA first team, and bring an MVP and a hometown built kid. He get more. Trust me, he gets more love. That's all I want to put in your head. He saved the drought of the Bulls. We was trash, and they gave us Derrick Rose. We had a 1% chance to get the first. They gave us Derrick Rose for that purpose alone.
Right.
So I'm letting put it in your head. Derrick Rose got more pull than Scotty.
I think if
I had to do a video now, tag you in it. I'm gonna ask everybody who more popular as in Chicago, Derrick Rose and Scottie Pippen.
It's because he's from Chicago.
Right.
That's more than
that matters.
It's the fact that he's from Chicago. We talking about being a Chicago Bull, or more than anything. The fact that he's from Chicago, I could definitely get with that logic. The great thing about today is we have video, we have technology to actually go back and remember who Scottie Pippen was, what Scottie Pippen was, right? And to see him play and go, wait a minute, yo. Even though when I was around during that time, I felt like that anyway, that he was awesome, man. He didn't get nearly as much credit as he should have gotten. But even today, now we also find the other thing that we're finding out, Jay wasn't really that cool. Jay was kind of a jack off. So that kind of adds to it.
But he always credited Scottie.
We didn't find it out.
We didn't know that.
We didn't know that, Jay. We didn't know that.
Don't do that, Jay.
We didn't know that, Jay was kind of a jack off. And the fact that he was that kind of compounds it. And even though he gives it up to Scottie, we look back on what he was doing and what they were doing. It's like, damn, this dude was awesome. So Scottie Pippen as a Chicago Bull, when you go back and look at him, I don't.
It's
I don't
insane. It's insane.
And
I think D Rose's career was so short-lived. That's why I think in the mindset of Chill, he's looking at it from like the production throughout the as far as just a Chicago Bull. It was so short-lived. It was high. Like the peak was like to have a 1-year peak like that. It's
won the league MVP and went to the Eastern Conference Championship.
Right. But Scottie throughout his, you know what I mean?
It took a super team to stop us from winning the ring. That's all I'm saying. And I don't believe in super teams, but it's the team that should have been on my team stopped us from winning. That's all I know.
And Ron, I'm gonna say this before we do.
Go ahead.
Let me just say this. We will revisit this, and we will be watching Mike Dunleavy create the downfall of the Golden State Warriors. Children don't see it, but Mike Dunleavy, he's about to stand.
He's going to wreck them. You think he's going to wreck them?
What is he?
How can you do it? It's already set.
It's cooked. It's cooked.
Yo, Rob, before you kick us off, Ron, I need to say one comment. Ask Chill a question.
All right, Context. I'm gonna holler at you later. Go ahead,
right, I noticed Chill said something that kind of synonymous what happened to King of the Hill. Chill believed that the Celtics could have came down for 3-0 if Jason Tatum did not get hurt. So one might say it correlate the other two with King of the Hill with Team FYF coming making a great comeback without that sudden death. Man, some people might say something different. You know what I'm saying? You and I both know in the competitive setting, when you hear that footsteps behind you, you tend to run a little different. You know what I mean? That's all. But speaking of competitive nature, Chill, it's next Sunday. It's good for you for the debate. It's good for you to debate next Sunday.
Next Sunday. I got to see what I'm doing next Sunday. I'll get with you.
Hey, Ron, I'm gonna hit you.
No problem.
Hey, Ron, did you see my message in the private chat?
Nah.
Not checking the private chat. If not, I'll hit you.
Which one did you see yesterday?
No. I sent you one today. I was saying that I want to do an interview with you on my channel.
Okay, bet.
And then I also need your info. If not, or tell me what I can look at for like your basketball history. Like I do interviews. I have my research up right. I ask you like
why even say private chat and then tell him what you said? What the hell?
Because bro said I didn't know. He said I didn't know.
All you gotta do is look in it. That's why you brought up private chat.
I'm gonna tap in with you, SB.
Yeah. Same thing for you, OG. I gotta find. I know I probably got to go to the VCR to find your hoop highlights, but
I actually got to. I
got to cut the film. I got to actually cut the film. It's like
I am modern. I got it converted to DVD. Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. DVD.
All right, yo, get them likes up. Get them likes up. Get them likes up, yo. Like and subscribe. It is free.
You hear?
All right?
You hear?
But if you, hey, people gonna be outside giving OG highlight tapes out. Hey, DVDs.
All right, SB, we gonna tap in with you soon.
Yeah.
I'm gonna holler at you. All right,
Yes,
hey,
sir.
chill. I got one more guy I want to get up here.
Yes, sir.
He in traffic like tickets, so he might have something crazy to say.
What's up?
What's up, Kyle? How you living?
What up?
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. You
Yeah.
hot?
Hey, Kyle, we only got a couple minutes, so let's cut straight to the chase. What's up, my man?
What up?
All right, cool.
You driving like OJ right now?
I want to get the cover real quick. Hey, so chill. So I'm from Houston. I'm a Rockets fan. I heard y'all talking about Jalen Green. I kind of came in late. I wanted to know what are your thoughts on running the offense just through Sengun normally instead of Jalen Green?
I don't hate it, but the offense running through the big man like Olajuwon, like Shaq, that's not going to work anymore. Depending on what Sengun is, if Sengun is a primary low post player, that's not going to work. There has to be something like you see what they're doing with Joker, where they run a lot of high pick, a lot of high pop stuff. Same thing with Anthony Davis, where they run a lot of stuff in the mid range with him. If they're going to be able to do that, he has to be able to step away from the basket because that's what the game is today. So if he could step into the mid post, they could run some action off of him, a lot of action off of him. Because I'm a firm believer that when you run an offense through the big man and the big man is successful, you see what they're doing with Joker. You see what happened with the Lakers. I mean, they was in the Western Conference Championship. I don't have a problem with that, especially if you're building on that. I don't. I think that's going to make Jalen Green. I think that's going to make Jabari Smith a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, because the buildup of the team right now, like, I'm not saying we're going in a Nuggets type build direction, but we do have like a big that's able to facilitate pretty well. And you can also, he's not a very good floor spacer, but he can space the floor occasionally, like hit the wide open knockdown three. And I think that if we have Jabari Smith, a really good defender, Thompson, who we just drafted, whenever he develops, I think he can be a really high positive defender. I think we can kind of build a defensive team to kind of hide Sengun's flaws defensively, and then have Jalen Green play primarily off ball, like coming off of screens and stuff, and have Sengun finding him.
Word, I feel that. I absolutely feel that. And like I said, I think that I like what they're doing in Houston. I really like what they're doing in Houston. The question is can we keep this unit together and develop this unit? That's the $1 million question. Because if they can, I think they're on their way to doing something serious. I do. I like it.
I appreciate it. My phone's
yes,
about
sir.
to die, but
absolutely, brother. Good to talk to you.
All right, Kyle. We'll check you later.
Mm-hmm.
All right, chill. Before we get up out of here, I got a couple super chats that definitely got to get read. Terry with two dads is continuing to send super chats through. He said Michael Carter Williams and Jabari Parker had me on their bandwagons. Who were players that y'all thought was going to be the future?
I was a big Thomas Robinson fan coming out of college. I thought he was going to be awesome coming out of college. I thought he had like a Malone kind of like vibe. I thought he was going to be really good. Jabari Parker too. The problem is I didn't know he was made of glass. That was it. And Greg Oden. Oh man, I thought I saw Patrick Ewing 2.0 when I saw him. I did. I thought that he was going to be in the league for 12, 15 years and they were going to build NBA championship units around him. Yes.
Okay. Random guy speaks. He was up here. Now he's tapping in with the super chats. He said, I really don't like this ESPN betting stuff. You can't beat the bag. And the potential bag in the betting space is massive.
Well, if you look at what's going on in ESPN, man, I mean, they're making cuts. You got to get the bread where you can get it. You have to.
Yeah, I never thought I'd see this day where ESPN's making budget cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew G became a member for a month. Yo, Andrew, you're a familiar face. Appreciate you for sticking around and continuing to, re-up with Player's Choice.
Mm-hmm.
MP3 with the final super chat. He said, hey, chill. I've been working hella and PC is keeping me in the loop. I love how you don't let my younger generation slander the players from your generation. They are delusional sometimes.
And I also got to respect what's going on today. I can't just talk about, I'm not one of these dudes, well, back in my day, and then not recognize how awesome somebody like Jason Tatum or Luka or these great young players, Anthony Edwards are. I can't do that. I can't just talk about, this dude is nothing today. No, I can't do that. I have to recognize, I have to be objective, and I got to recognize how awesome these guys are today. I'm a huge Anthony Edwards fan. Huge.
Objectivity is key when it comes to this hoop stuff.
Absolutely.
But, all right, man. We y'all know where to find Chill with Chill next Wednesday and same time next Saturday. Y'all know where to be.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
Open Gym coming on right after this too. So
Mhm.
if you're looking for more hoop talk, you know where to find it.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow we got a new show called PC Tunes. If you like cartoons, tap into it. Tap into it.
Yo.
All right,
Put
y'all.
a suit on. Put a suit on. Drink some water. Don't drink and drive, and love yourself. Take it light, but take it.